Alright folks, in this video we're going to build this chevron patterned three-dimensional pairing cutting board. It's perfectly flat optical illusions based on these chevron patterns. So if you want to learn how to build this, let's go check it out. Alright, starting off here with 5 pieces of walnut, 5 pieces of maple, 5 pieces of cherry. About 24 inches long, 2 inches thick, and get them together and start piecing them how you want them to look in the first glue up. What you really want to go for is a couple thick bands of each and then a couple small ones. Just kind of mess with them a little bit. Put it there. No, don't like that. Put it back. And then go ahead and grab a tape measure of some sort of measurement, and just make sure that it can fit through your planer. And judging by the good game I'm going to give it and the thumbs up, we're good to go. Alright, I have it in the clamps. I'm going to go ahead and start getting prepared for the glue. You want to leave the last board unglued because it will face towards the glue spot, so you will just be doubling up on glue when there's no real need. But here we're going to play the favorite game of woodworkers called Is It Going to Fit? Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to go ahead and slide these back to where I think that all these boards are going to fit flatly in there so I can get the glue up. And after I struggle pulling this one back because apparently I'm weak or malnourished, I'll go ahead and slide the rest of the pieces back, flip what's remaining down, and see if I had an accurate guess on are they going to fit. So nice pieces of walnut and maple in there. Getting to the last board. Yeah! Alright, we got it. Perfect. So now that that's done, we're going to go ahead and apply a very liberal amount of glue. This is Titebond 3. We want to get it all over the place, and I mean everywhere. We want a nice, as the glue is called, a tight bond. So to get a couple tidbits out, we're going to go ahead and apply some protection from my hand to the glue and spread that around, making sure I get it on every corner, every nook and cranny. Make sure it's spread nice and evenly. I want a good squeeze out, making sure it's all set everywhere. We have good air time, so. And then, oh, look at this form. Oh, nice little massage. Ooh, even a little pat. All right, this is going to be a strong bond. All right, enough of the bonding there. We're going to go ahead and put these pieces. Like I said, you leave that flat or back one unglued. As you saw, it met with the glued part. We're going to go ahead and clamp these down. We want nice even pressure, and these little pieces of board have blue tape on them. These are called cauls. Just pieces of wood, roughly the length of the board there, and I want to make sure that I have nice pressure downwards to keep the boards from kind of going up or down. I'm making sure everything's completely flat so I can put it through my planer. So tightening things down little by little as I go, making sure everything is squeezed relatively tightly. And of course, every woodworker add more clamps, get a couple more in there. We're going to figure out how this one's going to fit. Oh, hey, that's using the old noodle. Let's go ahead and make sure again everything's just nice and squeezed down. Final check. We want this pretty tight and snug. Movie magic, it's all dry. Actually, I left this to dry overnight. I always try and do that when I can. And I'm finally wearing a shirt other than black. I do own other shirts. I just own a lot of black V-neck polos. Not polos, but V-neck shirts. So here we are. We're just going to get it out of clamps. And here's you can see why I put that blue painter's tape down. Had there's been no tape, those pieces of wood would be a permanent fixture. So we need to knock those things off. Once I can kind of get it loosey-goosey, get those clamps off there. Check to see if those ones are stuck too. And it is. We'll go ahead and grab that mallet that I built in my last video and knock it off. Again, good reason to use tape in this instance. That wood could have stuck there permanently. So now that that's all off, I can go ahead and remove the rest of my clamps, get it out of the clamps, get everything cleaned up. As it fights me a little bit, I can then take it over to my planer. Here we're just going to get it down to evenness. So, I know it's pretty squared up, but I just want to make sure I got everything nice and flat. Any little glue bits left over after I cleaned it up, I want to make sure that everything's gone, that it's back to the raw wood boards that I had when I started. So I'm going to send it through a couple times again, making sure you get the top and the bottom, and then take it over to the miter saw. Just putting I think a 30-degree miter cut on this. You'll see why here in just a little bit, but this definitely helps set the tone for the chevron pattern. So I'm going to go ahead and clean that up with my miter saw and take it over to my table saw. Using a miter gauge here and a sacrificial backer board, I can go ahead and make this cut. This is not the safest of cuts if you're trying to do this without a miter's gauge or without that sacrificial board. Things could get a little weird. So regardless, keep your body away from it. As you can kind of see me leaning over, making sure everything's good, and then I can go ahead, set my table fence back, and kind of using that as a stop block. I can cut these down. I did 1.5 inches thick. I got to this small part and I was getting a little sketchy, but the old noodle came back to work and said, hey, I have this thing. I've already sawn through it, but we'll go ahead and use this to keep everything nice and straight and making sure nothing comes flying back at me. And then I have just enough material left where I can make that cut. I will save these offcuts. They can be used for something, not sure yet, but like every other woodworker, we can save them. So just flipping every other piece over 180 degrees, you get that chevron pattern. But we're going to set this right back in the glue up, so I'm going to flip these things over and fail at, is it going to fit game? Going to go ahead and slide those back just so I can get everything registered nicely in there. And then continuing to flip them back over. Alignment is going to be paramount in this, not right now, but we're going to go ahead and get some glue once I kind of get everything squared back up. Just good idea where good glue is going to go, which is everywhere. And I will go ahead and rinse and repeat with the glue process. I am going to forego the protection on this one. It just really didn't make sense the last time I did it, so I didn't want to catch flack for using a glove. So I'm just going to spread this around with my hand and then lick it clean off after I'm done. Just kidding. Don't do that. Although it's food safe, but it doesn't taste very good. So after spreading it all around with my homemade glue brush, I can go ahead and flip them back over and really pay attention to making sure everything's square. I didn't use the cauls on this one because I wanted to see the ends of the board, making sure everything was matched up and making sure that everything is nice and square. Otherwise you lose the whole illusion and you just wasted a bunch of time and wood and money and whatever else you could have been doing. So again, just keeping them square as I slowly kind of snug them up, making sure again everything is aligned where I need it to be. So you should have those V patterns at the top and those angle patterns at the bottom. Look like a bunch of little arrows, and just making sure the tips of those are aligned. Again, as we do as woodworkers, add more clamps. Just making sure everything's nice and snug. We'll go ahead and grab some more clamps here because you always need more. And then just spreading the glue just around a little bit on the top. And then we'll go ahead and let her dry. Now it's out of clamps, we can go ahead and clean off those arrow pattern thingies. As you can see, those things kind of fly around. This is one of the real purposes of the crosscut sled, to make sure nothing comes shooting back at you. Just give it a nice second pass to make sure it's all squared up on the bottom. All those dips and valleys are removed. And we'll go ahead and flip it over to the other side, making sure that we go ahead and get those. As you can see, they're kind of flying around. Those would have went 100 miles per hour past my body if it weren't for the crosscut sled. So work smart, not hard. And then go ahead and make that other cut. Now that those are cut off, it will fit back in my planer, and then I can go ahead and send it through the planer like I had done before. Kind of the same process, just making sure that everything is nice and clean. You want to take really small passes on this one, because they're not perfectly straight. Your planer blades can actually blow it out, so just make real shallow passes, flipping it over and getting the bottom as well. Again, just real shallow passes. It will take a little bit, as I didn't have cauls on there, so it was a little bumpy, but we got it back to flat. And now it's going to get interesting. So I decided I wanted to put a bevel cut on the bottom, or a chamfer, what have you. So I set my fence to what I thought was a good length, and going to go ahead and cut this chamfer. My blade is at an angle. I think I did 30 degrees. And this piece wants to fly. I don't even want to push. Look at it. It's just like, if it catches that blade, it will go flying, and I don't want to be anywhere near it. So I'm just going to hurry up. Oh, we made it. Let that slow it down. It's completely moved away from the blade now, so I can go ahead and remove the bigger piece, waiting for the blade to come to a complete stop. Just making sure that cut was nice. And then I can go ahead and remove that off cut. And then I'll just flip it around to do the same thing. This one, you saw it kick back just a little bit, but not too much. And then I'm going to go ahead and do the sides using a miter gauge. Going to go ahead and cut that chamfer on the side. Check it, make sure it's good. And make the cut on the opposing side. Now that those chamfers are cut, I can go ahead and begin the fun process of sanding. Starting off here at 80 grit, I'm just going to go ahead and give it a nice good clean sanding, making sure that every surface is smooth. And then I'm going to go ahead and take this little hand palm sander thing and hit the edges. Because of that bevel, I didn't want to go after with an orbital sander. I can mess that up, so I knew with the hand sander thingy I can get it nice and clean. And after that, after I get the 80 grit, I'm going to go ahead and put a nice round over using a 3/4 inch round over bit here. Sorry, 3/8 inch round over bit. I'm just going to go ahead and give it a nice smooth hand profile. Make sure no sharp bits when you go to pick it up. Now on to 120 grit, then 180 grit, and then 220 grit for my final sand. I did pop the grain between each sand, but now is the time that you've all been waiting for. With some Howard's cutting board oil, I'm going to go ahead and slap some finish on there. This is really when it comes to life. As you can see, it's really starting to pop that color and really almost starting to give it that 3D effect. And just spreading it around. I'm going relatively slow here. I want to give that oil a chance to soak into the wood as I'm moving it around. Man, that is beautiful. I will do, a couple more coats of this. You've seen people might have, dunk it in the oil. I just did one. I felt like that would be a waste. So I just, decided to take my time and marvel in it and just kind of really have fun. This is a really simple, really easy build. If you know how to make just a regular laminated cutting board, you can make this as well. It takes a little bit more wood and some finessing, but there's no reason why you can't go out and build this if you can already build a cutting board. So just getting the oil all over the sides as much as I can, letting it kind of drip down into my hand so I can wipe it on the sides, and I'll go ahead and flip it over and repeat the same process on the top. Just spreading it around. I am going slow. I just sped up this for video sakes. But I mean, this is pretty much it. Just again, I'll come back. I won't do it on camera, but come back and do additional coats, find those dry spots, and making sure that everything was oiled and the oil got to saturate those wood fibers. And just feeling the edges, making sure everything's nice and slick. I can just take my time, make sure it gets in all the fibers of the board. And I appreciate everybody watching. Alright everybody, hopefully you enjoyed that build. Again, great looking cutting board.
3D.
3D, yes. Thanks for watching. Hit that thumbs up if you like what you saw. Hit that subscribe button if you feel I deserved it. Look forward to seeing you on the next build. Peyton, take us away with the joke.
What did the woodcutter say to the tree?
What?
May I ask you a question?